important impetus for us to get going again. So this is very timely. Thank you. So I want to highlight here a couple of the fraternities which are bonded to the Capuchin, since this is a Capuchin gathering. I want to mention first, but not in any order, and Padre Pio in Cumberland, Maryland, has 16 members, 5 more in candidacy. So they're going to, again, a third as many in candidacy. Don Roper is a formation director. She, for a short time, was our regional formation director. And Father James Watson is their spiritual assistant. So their ongoing formation is currently to set themselves free, and they're doing a historical overview of St. Francis and St. Clare and exploring the rule and the Constitution. Father Kip was a recent speaker recently, and that really energized them. They really got a lot out of that. So they're either want him back, or they're saying, we need to do more with the Capuchins. So there's an idea here. Instead of having father or brother come and do formation, it needs to be it needs to be an interactive or a common program. In the past, they read Thomas of Celano. Don says they try to stretch themselves. They're not just going to read something easy and talk about it. They want to try to read something that one of our fraternity members grumbles, I have to get out a dictionary. That's okay. That's okay. And they utilize a fun manual for things as well. They have a Franciscan library, so if no one has a library yet, that's something you could think of, to have members can borrow books and DVDs. They were canonically established in 1876.
Wow.
Let that sink in. Wow. Stigmata from Allison Park is the next fraternity I want to tell you about. It's in North Pittsburgh. They have 9 members, 1 candidate, 4 inquirers. Grace DeFilippis is their formation director, and Father John Getzi, their spiritual assistant. For ongoing formation, currently they're studying Laudato Si. They're supplementing it with a fun manual. They hold initial formation on a separate day. Some fraternities have initial formation the hour before the regular one. They do it on a separate day so they can go a full 2 hours and devote more time to it. Noteworthy for them, they have annual days of recollection, and they have a very strong emphasis on fraternity apostolates and fraternity activities. So they participate in Pittsburgh programs such as the Red Door Ministry. Michael, you might be able to say something about that as well. But apostolates and coming together as a fraternity. And the last one I'll talk about, actually I have 2 more. St. Augustine in Pittsburgh, Michael's fraternity. Michael is our regional treasurer. They have 35 members. 3 were professed in 2017. They have 6 candidates and 1 inquirer. Bob Krzyzewski is their newly elected formation director, and Father Reggie Russo is their spiritual assistant. They did Padre Pio one better. They were canonically established in 1875. Yeah, that just blows me away. When the Capuchins came to Pittsburgh, they got a secular group going right away, 1875. They again, a strong emphasis on their apostolates. So the Red Door Ministry, St. Anthony's Chapel is in Pittsburgh, which is the largest repository of relics outside, maybe anywhere in the world. And they're always interested. If you would like to go, they will, one of their members will do a, what do you call it, a docent? He will take you through and show you the St. Anthony's Chapel. They have youth groups. They do annual days of recollection. Their initial formation uses facilitators to work with a candidate for an hour before each gathering. And Michael's group has 3 candidates right now, 1 from Romania, 1 from Peru, 1 for France. Pittsburgh is a melting pot, so they can pull people from many different countries. And then the last one, I wasn't going to talk about this one, but I met a young, newly professed Franciscan among us last night, Nathan, who is a member of Mary Queen of Angels and Mary Queen of Franciscans, I'm sorry. He's been professed for a year. He's 35 years old. There's 3 more mid-30 people who are interested in the fraternity. And Nathan said something to me last night. He says, when I went to the first meeting, I felt I belonged. What did Father say last night? The sense of belonging. So when members say, oh, we're too old, da-da-da-da-da-da, this guy goes to a meeting, he sees a lot of people with gray hair. Didn't stop him. He knew he belonged. Gets me kind of choked up. Anyway, so those are, I think, 3 or 4 fraternities in our region that seems to be doing formation well. In all fairness, we have other fraternities which are not doing well. They tend to be older, more infirm. They haven't had a profession in years, or a candidate in years. They tend to be maybe more Bible study based or prayer based. Again, not that there's anything wrong with it, but we're not a prayer society, right? They tend to do the ministers or the formation directors' lectures without discussion. They have trouble electing a council. You know, maybe they only have 5 people or 6 people. They're really worried about it. They haven't attracted new members for years, and they know that they're starting to slide. So our regional council is working very hard to try to find ways to keep these people in their fraternity. There are things in the Constitution where a fraternity can become a cell of another fraternity if they have trouble maintaining a council. So they can still maintain their identity, but maybe not have to struggle with a council. It's a worry for these members. It's a worry for our region. And it's one of the things that we're really trying to work on. And you'll hear about that when we talk about our strategic plan. How are you doing for time?
You're doing
Good?
fine.
Okay. So, 2013 or 2014, our regional council, yes, yeah, you could pass that around. We devised a okay. Pat is going to pass out our strategic plan. So about 2013 or 2014, we developed this strategic plan. It had to be voted upon by our members. That happened in 2000, well, we put it out in 2015, it was voted in 2016. So 16, 17, coming up on 18, now it's 3 years. I'm going to tell you about our plan, tell you what we've accomplished, tell you what we're going to do in the future. So this is a strategy map, and it's simply a pictorial representation of an organizational strategic plan. It appears as a house or a building with a vision statement, the realization of the plan as the roof. But in order to reach the roof, the building below needs to be built. To build any sort of structure, you must begin with a strong, solid foundation. Otherwise, the building will not stand. The base of the building in a strategy map is always the organization's values. In our case, the base of our building begins first and foremost with our communion with the Catholic Church. So you see that at the very base. On top of this rock-solid base is a second tier of our foundation, the rule and the constitutions of the order, of our order. These 2 tiers support the 3rd tier, the mission of Lady Poverty Region. And I'm just going to read that. Inspired by the Holy Spirit and our rule, we are called to rebuild the church. We seek to encounter the living and active person of Christ through apostolic activity in fraternity and in the world, going from gospel to life and life to the gospel. Sound familiar? Once this foundation is in place, we begin to build the actual structure, consisting of 4 pillars and a roof. The pillars are the 4 themes of our strategic plan. We spent many hours in our regional council, many late nights, a lot of discussion on these 4 pillars and what it's going to mean to our region, how we're going to rebuild the church that way. So the 4 pillars are the 4 themes: servant leadership, apostolic service, fraternal life, and Franciscan identity. The base of each pillar rests on the same 3 organizational capacity building goals: strengthening formation programs, revitalizing formation teams, and improving communication methods. And as we continue building each pillar, individual goals are developed that strengthen these internal processes. For example, mentoring new leaders under servant leadership, deactivating fewer fraternities under Franciscan identity. Next, we bring in resources needed to achieve our goals. For example, strengthening clusters under apostolic service, stabilizing our finances under fraternal life. And at the top of each pillar is the outcome that we wish to see for our members: vibrant leadership under servant leadership, evangelical and apostolic activity under apostolic service, fruitful fraternities under fraternal life. Pat quipped, maybe fraternities need to bring fruit. And increased vocations under Franciscan identity. So once the foundation and the pillars are in place, we put on our roof our vision for the future of Lady Poverty Region, and voila, our structure is built, our plan is in place. So the vision, and we used a kind of a theme, our little portion, rebuilding the world, one person at a time. And then our vision statement, for under servant leadership, we demonstrate vibrant leadership through humble service at the regional and local fraternity levels. Under apostolic service, our fraternities are engaged in evangelical and apostolic efforts for justice, peacemaking, and care for creation. Under fraternal life, united by our profession, we are called to build a more Christ-centered world through prayer, ongoing formation, and commitment to the gospel life. And under Franciscan identity, we live a life of simplicity, charity, and reconciliation, conforming our thoughts and actions to those of Christ by means of daily conversion. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Under each one of these, though, that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where it gets down to brass tacks. So we set individual goals under those. And the 4 counselors in our region, representing or the liaison to the 4 clusters, and our regional council then set about implementing some of these goals. So now after 3 years, we're ready to look back how far we've come and what have we to do yet. So we had a past, present, and now we're kind of going toward the future. So 7 concrete formation goals, because we're talking about formation here. So I'm not going to talk about the other stuff, but I'm going to talk about what we accomplished as far as formation under the strategic plan in the past 3 or more years. So now all our local fraternities are using Franciscan Journey for initial formation and supplementing it with a formation manual and Franciscan sources and resources. And the idea here too was to ensure consistency of initial formation so that we knew that all fraternities have a basic level. When we go out to do our visitations, one of my concerns is so much needs to be done on a visitation. Sometimes it's hard to get a good read on what the fraternity is using for formation. So, and because we didn't have a good solid formation team yet, I feel we struggled with that. Another thing we've accomplished here, we've had articles on formation in our newsletter, La Probacita, always emphasizing the rule, but explaining to the members how do you access the fund manual. What are a variety of Franciscan books and resources? So we may have a person do a book report, or I talk about a Franciscan book that a fraternity is using. Information on the Liturgy of the Hours. Tao using Chios dossiers. I don't know if any of you have gone to the international website, but there is a wealth of information there to use for formation. And if you're interested, it's a little bit hard to get to. I can tell you how to get there. But we've used it both on a regional level and local level too. And some of them are 1 or 2 page dossiers or teachings with questions afterward. So it's a wonderful source of information for formation. And as I mentioned, we developed a regional formation team with 1 member from each of the 4 clusters, but the goal was contact, to contact each of the individual fraternities, but it's not a good functioning team yet, so we need to work on that. As regional formation director, I attended the NAFRA formation workshop last year in St. Louis. There was also one, I think 2 years before that, and then when they ran the fund manual workshop. There's going to be a visioning workshop for formation directors in Kansas City in August. So National is looking at this as well. Where are we going from here? What is our vision for the future? So if any of you have any thoughts, please let me know, or talk to your national person, and you will be there as a...
Yes, I will.
You will be there. Yeah.
As a spiritual assistant.
Yeah, as a spiritual assistant. So she'll have a different hat on, but it's the same thing, it's the same goal. So that's coming up. So a formation workshop with, it's called a visioning workshop. We also determined we were going to do a retreat experience. So on a 3-year rotation, we have a national visitation, we have a national election, and that free year we do a retreat experience where we bring in a presenter to the annual gathering and offer the old-timey retreat experience, and that has gone over well as well. During visitations, we emphasize study of the rule and the constitutions. And then another item we did was developed a personal conversion checklist. I'm trying to remember, there was another region that did that, and Father Christopher Panagopoulos had also developed a personal conversion checklist. And it was just a neat thing for how am I doing to support my local fraternity, my regional fraternity, my own Franciscan vocation. So if anybody is interested, I'd be happy to share that with you as well. So those were the concrete formation goals that we achieved in the last 3 years. I kind of call it the low-hanging fruit, though. It was the easy stuff to do. The harder stuff is still ahead of us. So 7 more items, at least. We haven't had our regional council meeting. That's coming up next week, so I'm sure Pat's going to add to that list of things that we want to accomplish. So the 7 items that I see for the future is we need to build on our strategic plan and implement new ideas and new programs, set new goals. We need to strengthen our partnerships with our spiritual assistants, both at regional and at local levels. Possibly consider joint formation programs. There's a lot we could do. This is a perfect opportunity, so I really thank the Capuchins for kind of springboarding this and getting us to this next step. I think this is really going to be helpful for both our orders. We need to provide training and support for formation teams. We need to develop cluster formation teams and activities. The most common reason we hear, I don't want to travel, I can't travel at night, I don't want to go more than an hour away from home, and some of our fraternities are quite far apart. So that's an issue for us. We currently have a survey that's going to be going out, mostly to do with spiritual assistance and our use of spiritual assistance, but I think surveys can help identify the needs. We want information that is member-driven. We don't want it to be from the top down. Your regional executive council says you have to do this, this, and this. We want to find out what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses in your local fraternities, what do you need, what has worked well for you. We need to identify and mentor new leaders. Formation can languish if the formation director doesn't understand the requirements and the commitment of the role of the formation director. That's a biggie. Some formation directors land with both feet and they just, new ideas, new things, new energy. And a lot of I shouldn't say a lot, there are some fraternities that just plod, well, this is the way we've always done things. We'll read this book over again. And again, members can feel I'm not being fed. So there are some issues there. We need to mentor new leaders or train new facility directors. I don't mean they have to be young. We just need to train